In this world, is the destiny of mankind controlled by some transcendental entity or law? Is it like the hand of God hovering above? At least it is true that man has no control, even over his own will.
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them. Crises precipitate change.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Cursed Planet. I am the Jew Icarus, and today we're going to be talking about human transmutation. And when I say human transmutation, I mean the transformation from human into something else, or from something else into human, such as the definition of the word human transmutation. So, at this point, you might be wondering, Icarus, what kind of human transmutation are you talking about? What does that mean? What's going on? Well, my friends, I'm glad you asked such a question. There are various forms of human transmutation that are undergoing right now. We have the transmutation of ourselves from the environment around us, such as plastics, chemicals, genetic augmentation, gene therapies, CRISPR babies, stuff like that. The usual stuff. We also have transhumanism, trying to transition human beings into being machines, or something above humanity, which in itself is a dangerous and, in my opinion, vain idea. Then we also have transgenderism. Honestly, I've avoided talking about this topic for the whole time I've had a YouTube channel because it seems to be a very sore subject and very hard to speak about it without offending someone one way or the other.
How dare you!
And frankly, because I don't really care what people do with their lives as long as it's not hurting other people, then do whatever you want. But unfortunately, it's gotten out of hand. On the left,
what are your preferred pronouns? They, them.
These are not my preferred pronouns. These are my pronouns.
Mappa, Nini, Nopa, Nori, Opa, Pere, Pom-Pom, Zaza, Zizi.
Trixic, toric, feminomoric, viramoric, allosexual.
They, them, theirs.
They're customizable. Anything can be a pronoun, really.
Neurodivergent noun self pronouns. Animal noun self pronouns.
Neopronouns.
So gender dysphoria.
Gender euphoria.
I describe myself as agender.
What is androsexual? Genderqueer person.
Homosexuality, bi doesn't really fit them, lesbian doesn't really fit them, pan, asexual, etc.
Asexual, demisexual, and cupiosexual.
Autosexual,
aseflux, asexuality and allosexuals.
Neuroqueer, gray sexuality.
I'm demisexual.
Dexera is a gender identity that's similar to being a girl.
Let's talk about cupiosexuals and cupio-romantics.
Let's talk about libidoist and non-libidoist asexual.
Pangender.
Non-asexual aromantic and allosexual aromantic.
Micro-labels.
And on the right.
I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. And we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parents' consent. The identity will not be new, and it will not be without parental consent.
So, my hand is being forced, and I'm being forced to talk about this topic. There are 47 states right now passing laws that discriminate against transgender minors, or some states even go as far as, I believe a Tennessee state was either passing or trying to pass a bill that targeted men impersonators and female impersonators, which is so vague. It could be used to not only just stop drag queens, which is what it was supposed to stop, but anybody who doesn't adhere to some kind of societal norm. What if you have a random straight homosexual or bisexual person who decides to wear clothing of a specific gender that is not reflected on their birth certificate? Then they could be fined or arrested? It seems like madness to me. But at the same time, it's also madness to do strip dances in front of children, which drag queens have been doing now. Not like appropriate ones, but I mean actually inappropriate, crazy stuff, and parents are bringing their kids to them, which is mind-blowing to me in and of itself.
You are such an awesome mom for bringing their kid out to a family-friendly drag show, ladies and gentlemen.
No, 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 no. Wait, 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 wait. Wait, 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 wait.
Are you confused yet? Minty fresh.
Stop it. Get some help.
This is the TikTok making national headlines. Palm Springs drag performer Sabrina Williams with a young girl on stage dancing to a cheering brunch crowd.
And I feel like at any age, that's when you should start learning it. The younger, the better, to be yourself, to be an individual.
This week, the video was reposted by right-wing social media accounts, even shared by Fox News.
The vision is so shocking that we have to heavily blur it, but these are grown adults in bondage gear or in G-strings strutting around in front of tiny kids, infants, toddlers.
So here's the issue I see with the LGBTQ plus community. Well, the few main issues. They all like to be grouped together into one collective. And the second issue is, which isn't really that big of an issue for people in the community, neither is the first for that matter, the LGBTQ lifestyle is complex, let's just say.
Sometimes it just gets to be too many damn letters. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, like, it just, you're adding letters on, so, like, sometimes I appreciate it, and then other times I'm like, it's too many damn letters.
Compared to your average hillbilly. So, this has made an issue where everybody's lumped in together, and all people from the LGBTQ are being blamed for the inappropriate actions of a select few. And it doesn't help that most right-wing Republican people probably don't know the actual difference between a transvestite or a transgendered or even a fucking crossdresser for that matter. They will probably conflate most of them into being one same thing. Not only that, but now they're even trying to pass laws or talking about passing laws that use these poor individuals' suffering as a means to take away their rights. I've seen a lot of people since the shooting that took place with the transgender individual. I've seen a lot of people say that they're not okay with them having a firearm because they're mentally ill, quote unquote.
Then for the good of society, and especially for the good of the poor people who have fallen prey to this confusion, transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. The whole preposterous ideology at every level.
And I'm actually like staunchly conservative when it comes to the trans debate. And people say, oh, well, even if a person is trans, you should have the decency and the respect to call them by their preferred pronoun. I don't play that game. And what I always say to people is, if you have a mental disorder, that's fine. You know, I don't need to come up to you and tell you that I think you have a mental disorder. That would be rude. Right. But when you have a mental disorder and you're now requiring that I have a mental disorder, right, to meet your mental disorder, that doesn't work for me. Which is to say that if somebody was walking around as a schizophrenic and saying that they were Superman, what? And then telling me that I was required to treat them like Superman, what the fuck? I wouldn't play the game. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel about trans. I think the slope is so slippery, and they find that to be bigotry. No, I'm not going to call you she. I'm not going to call you her just because you're a grown man and you're wearing a wig and a dress. That's literally telling me that I am now required to have a mental disorder because you have one.
Obviously, it's a psychological condition.
This email exchange, a person told Representative Humphrey that he was a bigot for supporting Senate Bill 2, which would bar trans girls from participating in girls' and women's sports. In response, he wrote in part, quote, I understand transgender people have mental illness. Your insanity certainly is scary. This morning in an interview, he reiterated those comments.
I definitely want to tell your audience, there is no transgender. There is male and there is female. And transgender would be a mental health issue. So those people who say I'm bigoted, I will say you're insane and you're doing the people harm by doing that.
It's not even that you have to affirm his self-perception, as twisted as that would be on its own. It's actually that you must participate in this man's fetish. Okay, he gets turned on by the idea of himself as a woman, and even more so if you participate in that charade, and so you have to participate. Because he has a right to act out his depraved fetish in public and with your participation. That's what the women are being told.
The streets are extended gutters, and the gutters are full of blood. And when the drains finally scab over, all the vermin will drown. The accumulated filth of all their sex and murder will foam up around their waists. And all the whores and politicians will look up and shout, "Save us." And I'll whisper, "No."
And there's been a lot of talk about this trans day of vengeance, and the right wing is now convinced that all the transgender people are like mentally ill and going to cause some kind of confrontational war.
It's got to be more fundamental than that, and it is. The trans movement is the mirror image of Christianity, and therefore its natural enemy. In Christianity, the price of admission is admitting that you're not God. Christians openly concede that they have no real power over anything, and for that matter, very little personal virtue. They will tell you to your face that they are sinful and helpless and basically absurd. They're not embarrassed about any of this. They brag about it. That saved a wretch like me, goes the most famous Christian hymn ever written in English. The trans movement takes the opposite view. Trans ideology claims dominion over nature itself. We can change the identity we were born with, they will tell you with wild-eyed certainty. Christians can never agree with this statement because these are powers they believe God alone possesses. That unwillingness to agree, that failure to acknowledge a trans person's dominion over nature, incites and enrages some in the trans community. People who believe they're God can't stand to be reminded that they're not. So Christianity and transgender orthodoxy are wholly incompatible theologies. They can never be reconciled. They are on a collision course with each other. One side is likely to draw blood before the other side. That's what we concluded last week. Yesterday morning, tragically, our fears were confirmed. A self-identified trans person called Audrey Hale committed mass murder at a Christian school in Nashville.
And, I mean, any kind of population that you're trying to take away the rights of is going to fight back. It doesn't matter who they are. And I love how the right is demonizing an entire class of people for the actions of one person, but gets very mad when people on the left demonize an entire class of people for the actions of one person. It's very ironic how much similarities the two political parties actually share, even though they're super opposed ideologically. Whatever your stance on the whole pronoun thing and gender ideology that's been profligated through our country, you can't deny that it is mainstream now, and it is a cultural zeitgeist of sort, if you're familiar with that word. I'll say nexus. It's become a nexus of thought. Whether you agree with it or whether you disagree with it, it is still a huge part of the world today.
Hi, I'm Nadine, a sex educator.
And I'm Eva, a sex researcher.
I use the pronouns she and her because I'm a woman, and when I was your age, I used to be a girl.
Gender is how you feel on the inside about whether you're a boy or a girl, a man or a woman. If you're non-binary, feel like neither or both. People can also be fluid, feel more like female, more like male, based on a different day or time. It's really individual.
Absolutely.
Everyone born with a vulva is a girl. True or false?
Or identifies as a girl. Well, not everybody is sure.
I remember just 14 years ago, when I was 14, nobody knew what transgenderism was. Transvestitism, gender theater, there was no other pronouns besides like he and she. Anytime someone said they or it or anything else, it was an insult against someone, insulting them that, oh, you can't tell what they are you a boy or a girl, ha ha ha. So it's crazy to me to see how in a decade it's gone from being completely unknown to being talked about everywhere, or at least known by everyone. The issue with this social popularity is that it has a tendency to create social contagion. I think it's something like 20 or so % of young people that are in the school age years identify as LGBTQ. And that's like statistically way over what it should be. Not that there's anything wrong with being homosexual, but I'm just saying, like, statistically, it's pretty rare. But it's not so rare anymore, and it's becoming increasingly less rare. Which is fine. If that's what makes those people happy, great. That's wonderful. Good for you. Go for it. But here's the issue. We have stupid-ass parents, or stupid-ass people, children, counselors, psychologists, many stupid-ass fucking people, if you want me to be honest.
The problem with me starting it so young was not only that I couldn't consent, I couldn't really fathom the full picture of things. You know, I'll never be able to breastfeed. I'll never have that erogenous sensation in my chest back. How is I supposed to know?
James's mother, who is also a pediatrician, which is terrifying, I know, has been dressing him up as a girl, calling him Luna, and socially transitioning him since the age of 3. The kicker here is that allegedly the reason she did this is because he expressed interest in a McDonald's toy that was for girls.
And they're all contributing towards the total loss of rights for an entire group of people.
At any age.
If you are a they, them, a them, zer, a demon self, there's so many pronouns. Have you guys seen all the freaking pronouns that are out there? It's ridiculous. I mean, call yourself whatever you want. I'm fine with that, but if you do not think that you are one gender or the other, you have no business modifying your body with surgeries. And the people that are doing this, not all the people, some people that are doing these body modification surgeries end up killing themselves and end up regretting it and not wanting it to have been done to them. And it's irreversible. It's madness. You have people going in, getting surgeries that they don't need for no fucking reason other than that they're confused. I don't understand how someone could be confused enough to get a surgical procedure. Like, what is happening in these people's lives? I don't know if y'all have seen the number of trans regret people out there, but just like type in trans regret on YouTube or something. There's so many videos. It's so sad. Why would these people do that to themselves if that's not what they want? It doesn't make any sense to me. It must be some kind of cultural fad. There's all these people that are claiming the title of transgender who aren't even transgender. And then, worse than that, there are people who are getting surgeries for transgender people who aren't transgendered, and then now they're fucked. And they basically are transgendered because now they are in a body that doesn't match what they are. It's crazy. And this entire, I don't even know what to call it, metastasization of an ideology, I guess is the best way I can put it. The way that this ideology has spread and become a popular fad to do, not something that is necessary for your survival, or your continued survival, or peace, or happiness, or whatever the reason may be. These people are doing it for the wrong reasons, and then they're ending up regretting everything that they've done and taking their life or fighting against it, trying to pass laws to ban the same procedure they had. It's madness. And it's only going to become more of an issue and more of an issue until the people who are fighting against it take away all the rights of every single person who's trans.
At any age.
Because people are being allowed to transition who aren't trans. People are wanting to transition for no fucking reason. So we now have 47 states with legislation to impede this process. And granted, most of the legislation right now does target 18 years or younger on transitions, which I know really would probably suck if you're one of those people, right? That would suck. But apparently, we have stupid people and their stupid children going out and doing this and ruining their own lives for no reason. So now they're going to take away the rights from all the people who actually have an issue that they need help with. And I don't think it's going to stop there. I think it's going to continue and continue and continue. And I think all the people on the left who are fighting for the rights are going to fight harder and more violently because the rights are being taken away. Makes sense? And the people on the right are going to retaliate with that violence with either more violence or even more extreme and zealous rules, banning it completely, like somewhere like Saudi Arabia, where homosexuals are just killed, or Iraq. And honestly, the worst part is, I don't see a way in stopping this. You, me, we're just a few people. There's no way that we can stop the massive horde of consciousness that has been divided and fractured into two opposing ideologies that both think the other is evil.
In the natural, we also recognize how two-tiered justice system that exists for the righteous right and then for the evil left.
When we meet the left on the battlefield and they outnumber us like 5-1, that's it.
The forces of darkness here are hitting us really hard right now.
We are actually invaded from hell itself.
This fight before us proves to us that God is with us. He has chosen me, and he has chosen you.
There's all these calls here for the International Day of Rage of the Trans People. Men that think they're women and women that think they're men out with sandwich boards with images of rifles saying trans rights or else. And the main trans resistance movement came out and said, the shooter's a victim too, you made him do it, when it's a her.
So listen, Oregon, y'all better go buy some swords in the name of Jesus, right?
Pick up the sword and fight, and Christ will reign in the state of Idaho.
Oh, yeah. Where's Goliath? November, we're going to take our state back. My God will make it so.
International Day of Rage and Violence coming up April 1st, and it's an image of a trans person with an AR-15. Nobody's going to save them. Why? The state isn't getting access to children to sterilize them. They're putting up a little bit of a fight. So the answer is, let's go out and get violent. Notice a pattern? Colorado Springs shooter identifies as non-binary. Denver shooter identified as trans. The Uvalde shooter was into that too. Aberdeen shooter identifies as trans. Nashville shooter identified as trans. Confused, freaked out, whacked out people on major hormones.
So if we are going to have one nation under God, which we must, we have to have one religion, one nation under God and one religion under God.
That are the spiritual realm. We have to begin to speak directly to those demons, call their names out, rebuke them as the devourers that they are, and pray and believe that God is sending his angels now to begin to cause the enemies to fight against themselves. The confusion of the battles of the armies of the enemies will begin to fight themselves, that it will be broken down.
This president is not suffering dementia. He is possessed with the devil.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is a satanic portal above the White House. There is a demonic portal, a satanic portal above the White House that appeared shortly after the election of Biden. And it must be closed, and it will be closed by prayer.
How things are conflated, like drag queens and transgender, how those are different from one another and shouldn't be treated the same. All this is necessary to understand to combat this attack on nature and reality and mental health and children and procreation and a healthy way to live and families. I mean, it's an attack on all these things.
But the point is, when you look at these things like abortion, it's popular. People like abortion, hate it, but it's true. And you can thank the Jewish media for that. Abortion's popular. Sodomy's popular. You know, being gay is popular. Being a feminist is popular. Sex out of wedlock is popular. Contraceptives are, it's all popular. That's all. That's not to say it's good. That's not to say I like that. Popular means the people support it, which they do. And it sucks, and it is what it is, but that's why we need dictatorship. That's unironically why we need to get rid of all that. We need to take control of the media or take control of the government and force the people to believe what we believe, or force them to play by our rules and reshape the society.
The church is supposed to direct government.
There's no separation of church and state.
Right.
The church and state are one.
Yes. And I'm tired of this separation of church and state junk.
This country was founded as a Christian country, and it can only exist as a Christian country.
We serve a big God that's given us power and authority to tread over every demonic spirit.
These people that identify as non-binary or transgender are high-functioning autists. You'll see now in the media they're talking about Aubrey Hale as a high-functioning autist. So that is the crux of this problem, is that we're basically enabling people that are actually mentally challenged. It's even stronger than gender dysphoria. They're actually suffering from autism. And that is why this society is getting so bad, because the increased rate of autism is going to only increase the rate of transgenderism.
And it's very sad, but they're howling, they're barking at the moon, they're chirping, and they're just rolling them in like, here's where you're loved, here's where you're accepted, here's some fat men dressed like It the Clown, many of them convicted pedophiles, and this is just the army of evil rolling forward.
Hallelujah, Nancy Pelosi will bow at the name of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Nancy, she loves to drink the little children's blood. Well, now she will pay the ultimate price with her life.
How many more kids are going to have to be boiled, eaten? Because you won't do anything, Pastor. You won't do anything, Christian, because you don't want to get involved in politics.
How can you reason with either side? If you think of a way, please let me know in the comments down below. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention, fun fact here. The medicines that they use to transition from female to male or male to female, HRT and TRT, both extremely raise the chances of blood clots.
Welcome to the world, baby boy. I'll paint you red and white and blue. The indoctrination starts as soon as you come out the womb. Pretty quick, we'll make you stupid with curriculums at school. And if the classroom doesn't...
You were born here just like me, on this planet, created here, spawned here, whatever you want to call it, born here. You also started with nothing, no information, inability to talk, inability to walk, inability to think for yourself, to do anything for yourself. Can't even feed yourself when you're first born. We all start off as nothing but a pilot in a vessel, and the vessel being our body. Speaking of bodies, I have a question for you. Yeah, you. How are you? Are you feeling okay? Does your chest hurt? Oh? Have you been feeling okay lately? Well, like, let's say, the last 3 or 4 years? Seems like a lot of people got sick. A few years ago. I mean, we all know why, right? Seems like there's a lot of sick people these days, too. Have you heard of SADS? Sudden Adult Death Syndrome?
And make a couple babies who will also do the same. Welcome to the system, everyone's a victim. Doesn't matter if you're black or white, it hates you all. Here inside the system, violence is a symptom. Fighting for what's right, but somehow everyone is wrong. Welcome to the system, everyone's a victim. Doesn't matter if you're black or white, it hates you all. Here inside the system, violence is a symptom. Fighting for what's right, but somehow everyone is wrong. Welcome to the world, everybody. I'ma paint you black and white. I'ma make you hate each other so that everyone will fight. I'ma give you our religion, let the righteous find the light. But I will also give you science to oppose the word of Christ. And I'ma give you borders, they're imaginary lines. If you cross them, go to war and win when everybody dies. And I'ma give you money that you'll value more than life. And let the 1% have everything while you fight to survive. And then I'll give you politics, I'll call it left and right. And while you divide yourselves, I will conquer both the sides. Can't you see? I'm the system, my whole purpose is divide. What you choose will never matter because everything is mine. Welcome to the system, everyone's a victim. Doesn't matter if you're black or white, it hates you all. Here inside the system, violence is a symptom. Fighting for what's right, but somehow everyone is wrong. Welcome to the system, everyone's a victim. Doesn't matter if you're black or white, it hates you all. Here inside the system, violence is a symptom. Fighting for what's right, but somehow everyone is wrong. Welcome to the system, everyone's a victim. Doesn't matter if you're black or white, it hates you all.
So yeah, that's a thing that's happening, apparently. If you look at the death actuaries, along with the insurance companies, there's like a 20-25% increase in total morbidity after the super virus, or whatever you want to call it. So why are so many people dying now? And why aren't we looking more into this sudden adult death syndrome? It seems pretty scary if people are just dropping dead all of a sudden.
Hospital after suffering a heart attack.
After collapsing on the football field.
After
collapsing in the middle of the game.
collapsing during the game.
Collapsing on the tennis court.
Suddenly collapsing.
The player
collapsed and died.
after collapsing.
He collapsed.
It
seems that there's a second player who's collapsed.
This is unusual.
I've never seen anything like this.
Yes,
what's going on?
Yeah, what's happening?
That is the big question. What caused this?
There has been a sharp rise in unexplained deaths during the pandemic.
The number of deaths with unknown causes.
Oh, I know what must be causing it. Someone found a death note. But in all seriousness, something is very wrong. And I believe that something is in the... This is the part where I was gonna tell you that you're all special, but that sounded so played out that I couldn't bear myself to do such a thing. What are we going to do? What are you going to do? And more importantly, who are you in this world? What will you leave behind? What do you believe in? I wish I could know. But the interesting thing is, no matter how popular I get, in fact, the more popular I get, the more people that watch these videos, which I hope helps people. That is the purpose of me making these videos. The more people I reach, the less possible it becomes to know anything about all of the people watching, which is a very sad phenomenon. And I just wanted to bring up the fact that I care that you watch these videos, and I hope that they do make an impact on you. Speaking of you, have you ever heard of Morgellons? Well, if you don't want to sleep, like, ever again, you should spend about, I don't know, a week looking into Morgellons. It's definitely pretty terrifyingly awful. There's so many terrifyingly awful things going on, in fact, that I can't actually cover all of them, even if I made videos for the rest of my life, until I died. Which is mind-blowing, There's too many terrible things to focus on in the past, so let's focus on now and the future. Are you looking forward to becoming a machine? Or a part machine? Will you, if you give it the opportunity? Would you genetically modify yourself to, let's say, be half, I don't know, cat, or have regeneration like a gecko? You'd be like X-Men, I suppose. Do you want to be an X-Man? Seriously though, our world is wonderful. And I just hate watching it burn and die. I don't consider transgenderism, transhumanism, or even genetic modification no longer making you human. My point is, this culture of change, this societal belief that we all need to evolve into something else, something greater, something different, it's going to lead to confrontation, a battle, when there's always, throughout history, examples you can look at. Every single time there's an idea, there's people who are for the idea, people who are against the idea. Rarely does it ever end in a political or non-political, for that matter, discussion. It usually escalates. I don't want to be a part of this madness. And when I say madness, I don't mean LGBTQ or liberals or, oh, the Republicans. I don't want to be a part of this fake world that is being built, that has been built. I didn't decide that we all need birth certificates. Why do I have to have a certificate to prove that I'm born? I'm sitting right here, aren't I? How come when I go to the store to buy cigarettes and my ID's expired, I am no longer able to buy cigarettes in most places? Did I suddenly reverse through time and am now too young? There's a lot of things that are preposterous that we just don't question. But back to other things that involve you. Where do you lie on all these issues? Are you on the right? If so, do you agree with these political talking points? Do you agree with, let's say, someone like Donald Trump? Perhaps Alex Jones? Or are you on the left? And then I would ask you, do you agree with people like Biden? Or Hillary Clinton? Or many of the other politicians? And it could be asked both ways. My point is, are you going to participate in wiping out one of the two sides? If so, which side? And why? Why is it that we can't get along? And I can hear both sides shouting simultaneously into the ether, because they're evil, because they're bad, because they hurt this, because they do that, because they believe this, because they think that, because they say this, because they say that. Murada. And to clarify, those ideas are not pointless. The inability to see from the other side's perspective, the inability to find some kind of rational way to avoid death and violence. That's what's pointless. It's pointless to just characterize your enemy as evil because you disagree with them. It's hyperbolic on both sides. Perhaps you're like me and you find yourself not agreeing with either side of the arguments going on. Well, what do people like us do? I would suggest the same thing I suggest for everyone to do. Think for yourselves. Don't allow popular people or anyone to influence your thoughts and how you feel and how you think. Yes, take in information. Yes, allow yourself to grow. But you shouldn't just ideologically fall into one side or another for fear of reprisal or by some false ideology of what a person should be and what a person shouldn't be. Why can't we just all be ourselves and not attack each other? But I guess that's the story of human history. Death. Death. From worshipping death as some kind of godlike entity or being to trying to completely stop death and become immortal. We are surely very obsessed and interested in death. What comes after death, how to avoid death. Because death is final. It finishes everything. Are you ready to die? I don't want to die. No way, man. So, if there are people, many, many people, ready to die for this idea or that idea, where are you going to be when their lives are being put to the test? And you may be saying, oh, Icarus, this is fear-mongering. Well, I mean, sorta, yeah, but it's true, too. We all only have one chance to live. One right now. And I feel like almost everybody wastes that chance until, I don't know, they have like a midlife crisis or something. But unfortunately, the way things are going, I don't think my generation will live long enough to have a midlife crisis. At least not in the classical sense of, oh, you're 50, oh, you're 60, and now you're going out and buying a sports car and whatever. I think that it's so bad that no one's gonna own sports cars anymore in another 5-10 years. Shit, who knows if I'll even be alive. Because I'm not gonna stand here and allow people to butcher each other over stupid tribalistic garbage when we could all just get along and build a better future. What will you do? Will you all just continue to focus on nothingness, cultural garbage, your job, your work, your career, your hobbies? All that stuff would be pointless in a world where you're killed for just believing differently than someone else. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you're a freaking armor truck driver or a computer nerd, a VTuber. I mean, take your pick, dude. You could even work at McDonald's. If it gets so bad that sharing an opinion in a so-called free country is tantamount to breaking some kind of unspoken rule and you're put on trial for it, or just persecuted for not being like everyone else, ideologically, physically. I mean, there's so many reasons people persecute each other. Are we just gonna keep focusing on our own small little groups and tribes until everything collapses? I doubt any of you will change your lives very drastically from watching this. Or perhaps I'm wrong.
When he became the first president in the history of the United States to be indicted on criminal charges.
Prosecutors say next to be indicted will be company spin doctor Dick Harper. What? Indicted? Indicted?
That's not fair. They made you go on that show.
You hear what they said, Jane? I'm gonna be indicted.
Yeah, but you only said what they told you.
Indicted, Jane! Indicted! I'm gonna be indicted!
No, wait, it's gonna be okay.
Indicted!
Honey, Dick.
Indicted!
Honey.
I'm gonna be indicted!
Hold it. They can't. It's gonna be okay. Just calm down.
I can't calm down. I'm gonna be indicted! Indicted!